The Golden Horde, self-designated as Ulug Ulus, lit. Great State in Turkic, was originally a Mongol and later Turkicized Khanate established in the 13th century and originating as the northwestern sector of the Mongol Empire. With the fragmentation of the Mongol Empire after 1259, it became a functionally separate Khanate. It is also known as the Kipchak Khanate or as the Ulus of Jochi. After the death of Batu Khan in 1255, his dynasty flourished for a full century, until 1359, though the intrigues of Nogai instigated a partial civil war in the late 1290s. The horde's military power peaked during the reign of Uzbeg Khan, who adopted Islam. The territory of the Golden Horde at its peak extended from Siberia and Central Asia to parts of Eastern Europe, from the Urals to the Danube in the west, and from the Black Sea to the Caspian Sea in the south, while bordering the Caucasus Mountains and the territories of the Mongol dynasty known as the Ilkhanate. The Khanate experienced violent internal political disorder beginning in 1359, before it briefly reunited under Toktamish. However, soon after the 1396 invasion of Timur, the founder of the Timurid Empire, the Golden Horde broke into smaller Tatar Khanates which declined steadily in power. At the start of the 15th century, the horde began to fall apart. By 1466, it was being referred to simply as the Great Horde. Within its territories there emerged numerous predominantly Turkic-speaking Khanates. These internal struggles allowed the northern vassal state of Muscovy to rid itself of the Tatar yoke at the Great Stand on the Ugar River in 1480. The Crimean Khanate and the Kazakh Khanate, the last remnants of the Golden Horde, survived until 1783 and 1847 respectively. Name. The name Golden Horde, a partial calque of Russian, itself supposedly a partial calque of Turkic Altyn Orda, is said to have been inspired by the golden color of the tents the Mongols lived in during wartime, or an actual golden tent used by Batu Khan or by Uzbeg Khan, or to have been bestowed by the Slavic tributaries to describe the great wealth of the Khan. The Turkic word Orda means palace, camp or headquarters, in this case the headquarters of the Khan, being the capital of the Khanate, metonymically extended to the Khanate itself. It was not until the 16th century that Russian chroniclers began explicitly using the term Golden Horde to refer to this particular successor Khanate of the Mongol Empire. The first known use of the term, in 1565, in the Russian chronicle History of Kazan, applied it to the Ulus of Batu, centered on Sarai. In contemporary Persian, Armenian and Muslim writings, and in the records of the 13th and early 14th centuries such as the Yuanshur and the Jami al-Tawarik, the Khanate was called the Ulus of Jochi, Tashtai Kipchak or Khanate of the Kipchak and Kumania. The eastern or left wing was referred to as the Blue Horde in Russian chronicles and as the White Horde in Timurid sources. Western scholars have tended to follow the Timurid sources nomenclature and call the left wing the White Horde. But Totemish Haji, a historian of Krym, called the left wing the Blue Horde, and since he was familiar with the oral traditions of the Khanate Empire, it seems likely that the Russian chroniclers were correct, and that the Khanate itself called its left wing the Blue Horde. The Khanate apparently used the term White Horde to refer to its right wing, which was situated in Batu's home base in Sarai and controlled the Ulus. However, the designations Golden Horde, Blue Horde, and White Horde have not been encountered in the sources of the Mongol period. Mongol origins. At his death in 1227, Genghis Khan divided the Mongol Empire amongst his four sons as appanages, but the empire remained united under the supreme Khan. Jochi was the eldest, but he died 6 months before Genghis. The westernmost lands occupied by the Mongols, which included what is today southern Russia and Kazakhstan, were given to Jochi's eldest sons, Batu Khan, who eventually became ruler of the Blue Horde, and Orda Khan, who became the leader of the White Horde. In 1235, Batu with the great general Subutai began an invasion westwards, first conquering the Bashkirs and then moving on to Volga Bulgaria in 1236. From there he conquered some of the southern steppes of present-day Ukraine in 1237, forcing many of the local Cumans to retreat westward. The Mongol campaign against the Kipchaks and Cumans had already started under Jochi and Subutai in 1216 to 1218 when the Merkits took shelter among them. By 1239 a large portion of Cumans were driven out of the Crimean Peninsula, and it became one of the appanages of the Mongol Empire. The remnants of the Crimean Cumans survived in the Crimean Mountains, and they would, in time, mix with other groups in the Crimea to form the Crimean Tatar population. Moving north, Batu began the Mongol invasion of Rus and spent 3 years subjugating the principalities of former Kievan Rus, whilst his cousins Mong, Khaden, and Gayuk moved southwards into Alania. Using the migration of the Cumans as their casus belli, the Mongols continued west, raiding Poland and Hungary, which culminated in Mongol victories at the battles of Legnica and Mohi. In 1241, however, Ogdi Khan died in the Mongolian homeland. Batu turned back from his siege of Vienna but did not return to Mongolia, rather opting to stay at the Volga River. His brother Orda returned to take part in the succession. The Mongol armies would never again travel so far west. In 1242, after retreating through Hungary, destroying Pest in the process, and subjugating Bulgaria, Batu established his capital at Sarai, commanding the lower stretch of the Volga River, on the site of the Khazar capital of Atil. Shortly before that, the younger brother of Batu and Orda, Shiban, was given his own enormous Ulus east of the Ural Mountains along the Obi and Irtysh rivers. While the Mongolian language was undoubtedly in general use at the court of Batu, few Mongol texts written in the territory of the Golden Horde have survived, perhaps because of the prevalent general illiteracy. According to Grigorev, Yarlik, or decrees of the Khans, were written in Mongol, then translated into the Cuman language. The existence of Arabic Mongol and Persian Mongol dictionaries dating from the middle of the 14th century and prepared for the use of the Egyptian Mamluk Sultanate suggests that there was a practical need for such works in the chancelleries handling correspondence with the Golden Horde. It is thus reasonable to conclude that letters received by the Mamluks, if not also written by them, must have been in Mongol. Golden Age. Batu Khan. When the great Khatun Turegin invited Batu to elect the next emperor of the Mongol Empire in 1242, he declined to attend the Kurultai and instead stayed at the Volga River. Although Batu excused himself by saying he was suffering from old age and illness, it seems that he did not support the election of Gayuk Khan. Gayuk and Buri, a grandson of Chagatai Khan, had quarreled violently with Batu at a victory banquet during the Mongol occupation of Eastern Europe. He sent his brothers to the Kurultai, and the new Khagan of the Mongols was elected in 1246. All the senior Rus princes, including Yaroslav II of Vladimir, Daniel of Galicia, and Sviatoslav III of Vladimir, acknowledged Batu's supremacy. Originally Batu ordered Daniel to turn the administration of Galicia over to the Mongols, but Daniel personally visited Batu in 1245 and pledged allegiance to him. After returning from his trip, Daniel was visibly influenced by the Mongols, and equipped his army in the Mongol fashion. Austrian visitors to his camp remarked that all of Daniel's horsemen dressed like Mongols. The only one who did not was Daniel himself, who dressed according to the Russian custom. Michael of Chernigov, who had killed a Mongol envoy in 1240, refused to show obeisance and was executed in 1246. When Gayuk called Batu to pay him homage several times, Batu sent Yaroslav II, Andrei II of Vladimir and Alexander Nevsky to Karakorum in Mongolia in 1247. Yaroslav II never returned and died in Mongolia. He was probably poisoned by Turegin Khatun, who probably did it despite Batu and even her own son Gayuk, because he did not approve of her regency. Gayuk appointed Andrei Grand Prince of Vladimir Suzdal and Alexander Prince of Kiev. However, when they returned, Andrei went to Vladimir while Alexander went to Novgorod instead. A bishop by the name of Cyril went to Kiev and found it so devastated that he abandoned the place and went further east instead. In 1248, Gayuk demanded Batu come eastward to meet him, a move that some contemporaries regarded as a pretext for Batu's arrest. In compliance with the order, Batu approached, bringing a large army. When Gayuk moved westwards, Tolwi's widow and a sister of Batu's stepmother Sorgatani warned Batu that the Jochids might be his target. Gayuk died on the way, in what is now Xinjiang, at about the age of 42. Although some modern historians believe that he died of natural causes because of deteriorating health, he may have succumbed to the combined effects of alcoholism and gout, or he may have been poisoned. William of Rubruck and a Muslim chronicler state that Batu killed the imperial envoy, and one of his brothers murdered the great Khan Gayuk, but these claims are not completely corroborated by other major sources. Gayuk's widow Ogul Kaimash took over as regent, but she would be unable to keep the succession within her branch of the family. With the assistance of Batu, Monk succeeded as Great Khan in 1251. Utilizing the discovery of a plot designed to remove him, Monk as the new Great Khan began a purge of his opponents. Estimates of the deaths of aristocrats, officials, and Mongol commanders range from 77 to 300. Batu became the most influential person in the Mongol Empire as his friendship with Monk ensured the unity of the realm. Batu, Monk, and other princely lines shared rule over the area from Afghanistan to Turkey. Batu allowed monk census takers to operate freely in his realm. In 1252 to 1259, Monk conducted a census of the Mongol Empire, including Iran, Afghanistan, Georgia, Armenia, Rus, Central Asia, and North China. While the census in China was completed in 1252, Novgorod in the far northwest was not counted until winter 1258-59. With the new powers afforded to Batu by Monk, he now had direct control over the Rus princes. However, the Grand Prince Andrei II refused to submit to Batu. Batu sent a punitive expedition under Nevrui, who defeated Andrei and forced him to flee to Novgorod, then Pskov, and finally to Sweden. The Mongols overran Vladimir and harshly punished the principality. The Livonian knights stopped their advance to Novgorod and Pskov. Thanks to his friendship with Sartak Khan, Batu's son, who was a Christian, Alexander was installed as the Grand Prince of Vladimir by Batu in 1252. Berk. After Batu died in 1256, his son Sartak Khan was appointed by Monk Khan. As soon as he returned from the court of the Great Khan in Mongolia, Sartak died. The infant Ulug succeeded him under the regency of Borakchin Khatun. The Khatun summoned all the Rus princes to Sarai to renew their patents. In 1256 Andrei traveled to Sarai to ask for pardon. He was once again reappointed as Prince of Vladimir Suzdal. Ulug died soon after, and Batu Khan's younger brother Berk, who had been converted to Islam, was enthroned as Khan of the Golden Horde in 1258. In 1256, Daniel of Galicia openly defied the Mongols and ousted their troops in northern Podolia. In 1257, he repelled Mongol assaults led by the Prince Kuramza on Ponesia and Volhynia and dispatched an expedition with the aim of taking Kiev. Despite initial successes, in 1259 a Mongol force under Burdai entered Galicia and Volhynia and offered an ultimatum. Daniel was to destroy his fortifications or Burdai would assault the towns. Daniel complied and pulled down the city walls. In 1259 Berk launched savage attacks on Lithuania and Poland, and demanded the submission of Bela IV, the Hungarian monarch, and the French King Louis IX in 1259 and 1260. His assault on Prussia in 1259-60 inflicted heavy losses on the Teutonic Order. The Lithuanians were probably tributary in the 1260s, when reports reached the Curia that they were in league with the Mongols. Mongol agents began taking censuses in the Rus principalities. Novgorod in the far northwest was not counted until winter 1258-59. There was an uprising in Novgorod against the Mongol census, but Alexander Nevsky forced the city to submit to the census and taxation. In 1261, Berk approved the establishment of a church in Sarai. Talyud Civil War. After Monk Khan died in 1259, the Talyud Civil War broke out between Kublai Khan and Erik Boki. While Hulaku Khan of the Ilkhanate supported Kublai, Berk sided with Erik Boki. There is evidence that Berk minted coins in Erik Boki's name, but he remained militarily neutral. After the defeat of Erik Boki in 1264, he freely acceded to Kublai's enthronement. However, some elites of the White Horde joined Erik Boki's resistance. Berk-Hulaku War. Monk ordered the Jochid and Chagatai families to join Hulaku's expedition to Iran. Berk's persuasion might have forced his brother Batu to postpone Hulaku's operation, little suspecting that it would result in eliminating the Jochid predominance there for several years. During the reign of Batu or his first two successors, the Golden Horde dispatched a large Jochid delegation to participate in Hulaku's expedition in the Middle East in 1256-57. One of the Jochid princes who joined Hulaku's army was accused of witchcraft and sorcery against Hulaku. After receiving permission from Berk, Hulaku executed him. After that, two more Jochid princes died suspiciously. According to some Muslim sources, Hulaku refused to share his war booty with Berk in accordance with Genghis Khan's wish. Berk was a devoted Muslim who had had a close relationship with the Abbasid Caliph al-Mustahab Asim, who had been killed by Hulaku in 1258. The Jochids believed that Hulaku's state eliminated their presence in the Transcaucasus. Those events increased the anger of Berk, and the war between the Golden Horde and the Ilkhanate soon broke out in 1262. The increasing tension between Berk and Hulaku was a warning to the Golden Horde contingents in Hulaku's army that they had better escape. One contingent reached the Kipchak steppe, another traversed Khorasan, and a third body took refuge in Mamluk-ruled Syria, where they were well received by Sultan Baibars. Hulaku harshly punished the rest of the Golden Horde army in Iran. Berk sought a joint attack with Baibars and forged an alliance with the Mamluks against Hulaku. The Golden Horde dispatched the young Prince Nogai to invade the Ilkhanate, but Hulagu forced him back in 1262. The Ilkhanate army then crossed the Turkic River, capturing an empty Jochi encampment, only to be routed in a surprise attack by Nogai's forces. Many of them were drowned as the ice broke on the frozen Turkic River. The outbreak of conflict was made more annoying to Berke by the rebellion of Suzdal at the same time, killing Mongol Turkicized and tax collectors. Berke planned a severe punitive expedition. But after Alexander Nevsky begged Berke not to punish the Rus and the Vladimir Suzdal cities agreed to pay a large indemnity, Berke relented. Alexander died on his trip back in Gorodets on the Volga. He was well loved by the people and called the Son of Russia. When the former Seljuk Sultan Caucasus II was arrested in the Byzantine Empire, his younger brother Kakbad II appealed to Berke. An Egyptian envoy was also detained there. With the assistance of the Kingdom of Bulgaria, Nogai invaded the empire in 1264. By the next year, the Mongol-Bulgarian army was within reach of Constantinople. Nogai forced Michael VIII Palaiologos to release Caucasus and pay tribute to the horde. Berke gave Caucasus Crimea as an appanage and had him marry a Mongol woman. Hulagu died in February 1265 and Berke followed the next year while on campaign in Tiflis, causing his troops to retreat. Erik Boki had earlier placed Shagatai's grandson Ulug Ulus Khan, ruling Central Asia. He took control of Samarkand and Bukhara. When the Muslim elites and the Jochid retainers in Bukhara declared their loyalty to Berke, Ulug smashed the Golden Horde appanages in Khwarezm. Ulug insisted Hulagu attack the Golden Horde. He accused Berke of purging his family in 1252. In Bukhara, he and Hulagu slaughtered all the retainers of the Golden Horde and reduced their families into slavery, sparing only the great Khan Kublai's men. After Berke gave his allegiance to Kublai, Ulug declared war on Berke, seizing Otrar and Khwarezm. While the left bank of Khwarezm would eventually be retaken, Berke had lost control over Transoxiana. In 1264 Berke marched past Tiflis to fight against Hulagu's successor Abaka, but he died en route. Mengu Timur. Berke left no sons, so Batu's grandson Mengu Timur was nominated by Kublai and succeeded his uncle Berke. However, Mengu Timur secretly supported the Oghid Prince Kadu against Kublai and the Ilkhanate. After the defeat of Ghiyasuddin Barak, a peace treaty was concluded in 1267 granting 1/3 of Transoxiana to Kadu and Mengu Timur. In 1268, when a group of princes operating in Central Asia on Kublai's behalf mutinied and arrested 2 sons of the Khagan, they sent them to Mengu Timur. One of them, Namagan, favorite of Kublai, was located in the Crimea. Mengu Timur might have struggled with Hulagu's successor Abaga for a brief period of time, but the great Khan Kublai forced them to sign a peace treaty. He was allowed to take his share in Persia. Independently from the Khan, Nogai expressed his desire to ally with Baybars in 1271. Despite the fact that he was proposing a joint attack on the Ilkhanate with the Mamluks of Egypt, Mengu Timur congratulated Abaga when Barak was defeated by the Ilkhan in 1270. In 1267, Mengu Timur issued a diploma, Jarlik, to exempt Rus clergy from any taxation and gave to the Genoese and Venice exclusive trading rights in Kaffa and Azov. Some of Mengu Timur's relatives converted to Christianity at the same time and settled among the Rus people. One of them was a prince who settled in Rostov and became known as Tsarevich Peter of the Horde. Even though Nogai invaded the Orthodox Christian Byzantine Empire in 1271, the Khan sent his envoys to maintain friendly relationship with Michael VIII Palaiologos, who sued for peace and married one of his daughters, Euphrosyne Palaiologina, to Nogai. Mengu Timur ordered the Grand Prince of Rus to allow German merchants free travel through his lands. This Gramota says. Mengu Timur's word to Prince Yaroslav, give the German merchants way into your lands. From Prince Yaroslav to the people of Riga, to the great and the young, and to all, your way is clear through my lands, and who comes to fight, with them I do as I know, but for the merchant the way is clear. This decree also allowed Novgorod's merchants to travel throughout the Suzdal lands without restraint. Mengu Timur honored his vow. When the Danes and the Livonian Knights attacked Novgorod Republic in 1269, the Khan's great Beskak, Amragan, and many Mongols assisted the Rus army assembled by the Grand Duke Yaroslav. The Germans and the Danes were so cowed that they sent gifts to the Mongols and abandoned the region of Narva. The Mongol Khan's authority extended to all Rus principalities, and in 1274–75 the census took place in all Rus cities, including Smolensk and Vytsyevsk. In 1277, Mengu Timur launched a campaign against the Alans north of the Caucasus. Along with the Mongol army were also Rus, who took the fortified stronghold of the Alans, Dodikov, in 1278. Dual Khanship. Mengu Timur was succeeded in 1281 by his brother Totamonk, who was a Muslim. However, Nogai Khan was now strong enough to establish himself as an independent ruler. The Golden Horde was thus ruled by two Khans. Totamonk made peace with Kublai, returned his sons to him, and acknowledged his supremacy. Nogai and Kachu, Khan of the White Horde and son of Orda Khan, also made peace with the Yuan dynasty in the Ilkhanate. According to Mamluk historians, Totamonk sent the Mamluks a letter proposing to fight against their common enemy, the unbelieving Ilkhanate. This indicates that he might have had an interest in Azerbaijan and Georgia, which were both ruled by the Ilkhans. In the 1270s, Nogai had savagely raided Bulgaria and Lithuania. He blockaded Mykolaiv II inside Drestar in 1279, executed the rebel Emperor Ivilo in 1280, and forced George Turtura to seek refuge in the Byzantine Empire in 1292. In 1284, Sakshi came under the Mongol rule during the major invasion of Bulgaria, and coins were struck in the Khan's name. Smilets was installed by Nogai as Emperor of Bulgaria. Accordingly, the reign of Smilets has been considered the height of Mongol overlordship in Bulgaria. When he was expelled by a local boyars circa 1295, the Mongols launched another invasion to protect their protégé. Nogai compelled Serbian king Stefan Milutin to accept Mongol supremacy and received his son, Stefan Nikansky, as hostage in 1287. Under his rule, the Vlachs, Slavs, Alans, and Turco-Mongols lived in modern-day Moldavia. At the same time, the influence of Nogai greatly increased in the Golden Horde. Backed by him, some Rus princes, such as Dmitry of Peroslavl, refused to visit the court of the Totamonk in Sarai, while Dmitri's brother Andrei of Gordyets sought assistance from Totamonk. Nogai vowed to support Dmitry in his struggle for the Grand Ducal throne. On hearing about this, Andrei renounced his claims to Vladimir and Novgorod and returned to Gordyets. He returned with Mongol troops sent by Totamonk and seized Vladimir from Dmitry. Dmitry retaliated with the support of Mongol troops from Nogai and retook his holdings. In 1285, Andrei again led a Mongol army under a Burjigin prince to Vladimir, but Dmitry expelled them. In 1283, Mengu Timur converted to Islam and abandoned state affairs. Rumors spread that the Khan was mentally ill and only cared for clerics and sheiks. In 1285, Talabuga and Nogai invaded Hungary. While Nogai was successful in subduing Slovakia, Talabuga got stuck north of the Carpathian Mountains. Talabuga's soldiers got angry and sacked Galicia and Volhynia instead. In 1286, Talabuga and Nogai attacked Poland and ravaged the country. After returning, Talabuga overthrew Totamonk, who was left to live in peace. Talabuga's army made unsuccessful attempts to invade the Ilkhanate in 1288 and 1290. During a punitive expedition against the Circassians, Talabuga became resentful of Nogai, who he believed did not provide him with adequate support during the invasions of Hungary and Poland. Talabuga challenged Nogai, but was defeated in a coup and replaced with Tokta in 1291. Some of the Rus princes complained to Tokta about Dmitry. Mikhail Yaroslavich was summoned to appear before Nogai and Sarai, and Daniel of Moscow declined to come. In 1293, Tokta sent a punitive expedition led by his brother, Dyudin, to Rus and Belarus to punish those stubborn subjects. The latter sacked 14 major cities, finally forcing Dmitry to abdicate. Nogai was annoyed by this independent action and sent his wife to Tokta in 1293 to remind him who was in charge. In the same year, Nogai sent an army to Serbia and forced the king to acknowledge himself as a vassal. Nogai's daughter married a son of Kublai's niece, Kelmish, who was wife of the Khangirat general of the Golden Horde. Nogai was angry with Kelmish's family because her Buddhist son despised his Muslim daughter. For this reason, he demanded Tokta send Kelmish's husband to him. Nogai's independent actions related to Rus princes and foreign merchants had already annoyed Tokta. Tokta thus refused and declared war on Nogai. Tokta was defeated in their first battle. Nogai's army turned their attention to Kaffa and Sadaya, looting both cities. Within 2 years, Tokta returned and killed Nogai in 1299 at the Kogamlik, near the Dnieper. Tokta had his son station troops in Sakshi and along the Danube as far as the Iron Gate. Nogai's son Chaka of Bulgaria first escaped to the Alans, and then Bulgaria, where he briefly ruled as emperor before he was murdered by Theodore Svetoslav on the orders of Tokta. After Mengu Timur died, Rulers of the Golden Horde withdrew their support from Kedu, the head of the House of Ogdi. Kedu tried to restore his influence in the Golden Horde by sponsoring his own candidate Kobayleg against Bayan, Khan of the White Horde. After taking military support from Tokta, Bayan asked help from the Yuan dynasty and the Ilkhanate to organize a unified attack on the Chagatai Khanate under the leadership of Kedu and his number 2 Duwa. However, the Yuan court was unable to send quick military support. General peace. From 1300 to 1303 a severe drought occurred in the areas surrounding the Black Sea. However, the troubles were soon overcome and conditions in the Golden Horde rapidly improved under Tokta's reign. After the defeat of Nogai Khan, his followers either fled to Podolia or remained under the service of Tokta, to become what would eventually be known as the Nogai Horde. Tokta established the Byzantine-Mongol alliance by Maria, an illegitimate daughter of Andronikos II Palaiologos. A report reached Western Europe that Tokta was highly favorable to the Christians. According to Muslim observers, however, Tokta remained an idol worshipper and showed favor to religious men of all faiths, though he preferred Muslims. He demanded that the Ilkhan Ghazan and his successor Ulye to give Azerbaijan back but was refused. Then he sought assistance from Egypt against the Ilkhanate. Tokta made his man ruler in Ghazni, but he was expelled by its people. Tokta dispatched a peace mission to the Ilkhan Gaykatu in 1294, and peace was maintained mostly uninterrupted until 1318. In 1304 ambassadors from the Mongol rulers of Central Asia and the Yuan announced to Tokta their general peace proposal. Tokta immediately accepted the supremacy of Yuan Emperor Temurolye II, and all yams and commercial networks across the Mongol Khanates reopened. Tokta introduced the general peace among the Mongol Khanates to Rus princes at the assembly in Pereyaslavl. The Yuan influence seemed to have increased in the Golden Horde as some of Tokta's coins carried Fagspa script in addition to Mongolian script and Persian characters. Tokta arrested the Italian residents of Sarai and besieged Kaffa in 1307. The cause was apparently Tokta's displeasure at the Genoese slave trade of his subjects, who were mostly sold as soldiers to Egypt. In 1308, Kaffa was plundered by the Mongols. During the late reign of Tokta, tensions between princes of Tver and Moscow became violent. Daniel of Moscow seized the town of Kolomna from the Principality of Ryazan, which turned to Tokta for protection. However, Daniel was able to beat both Ryazan and Mongol troops in 1301. His successor Yuri of Moscow also seized Peraslavl-Zaleski. Tokta considered eliminating the special status of the Grand Principality of Vladimir, and placing all the Rus princes on the same level. Tokta decided to personally visit northern Rus to settle the conflict between the princes, but he fell ill and died while crossing the Volga in 1313. Disintegration. Khanate of Sibir. The Khanate of Sibir was ruled by a dynasty originating with Tybuka in 1405 at Kimgitura. After his death in 1428, the Khanate was ruled by the Uzbek Khan Ulug Ulus. When he died in 1468, the Khanate split in two, with the Shaybanadibak Khan situated in Kimgitura, and the Tipujid Muhammad at the fortress of Sibir, from which the Khanate derives its name. Uzbeg Khanate. After 1419, the Golden Horde functionally ceased to exist. Ulya Muhammad was officially Khan of the Golden Horde, but his authority was limited to the lower banks of the Volga where Toktamish's other son Kipchak also reigned. The Golden Horde's influence was replaced in Eastern Europe by the Grand Duchy of Lithuania, who Ulya Muhammad turned to for support. The political situation in the Golden Horde did not stabilize. In 1422, the grandson of Urals Khan, Barak Khan, attacked the reigning Khans in the west. Within 2 years, Ulya, Kipchak, and another claimant Dalatberdi, were defeated. Ulya Muhammad fled to Lithuania. Kipchak tried to raid Odoy and Ryazan but failed to establish himself in those regions, and Dalat took advantage of the situation to seize Crimea. Barak defeated an invasion by Ulya Beg in 1427 but was assassinated the next year. His successor, Abu Khan, founded the Uzbek Khanate. Nogai Horde. By the 1440s, a descendant of Edigu by the name of Musa bin Wakarkas was ruling at Sarai-Juk as an independent Khan of the Nogai Horde, Khanate of Kazan. Ulya Muhammad ousted Dalatberdi from Crimea. At the same time, the Khan Hakaguri fled to Lithuania to ask Vytautas for support. In 1426, Ulya Muhammad contributed troops to Vytautas' war against Pskov. Despite the Golden Horde's extremely reduced status, both Yuri of Spenigorod and Vasily Kozoy still visited Ulya Muhammad's court in 1432 to request a Grand Ducal patent. A year later, Ulug Muhammad lost the throne to Sayyid Ahmad I, a son of Toktamish. Ulug Muhammad fled to the town of Belav on the upper Oka River, where he came into conflict with the Grand Duchy of Muscovy. Vasily II of Moscow attempted to drive him out but was defeated at the Battle of Belayev. Ulug Muhammad became master of Belav. Ulug Muhammad continued to exert influence on Muscovy, occupying Gortyets in 1444. Vasily II even wanted him to issue him a patent for the throne, but Ulug Muhammad attacked him instead at Murom in 1445. On 7 July, Vasily II was defeated and taken prisoner by Ulug Muhammad at the Battle of Suzdal. Despite his victory, Ulug Muhammad's situation was pressed. The Golden Horde was no more, he had barely 10,000 soldiers, and thus could not press the advantage against Moscow. A few months later he released Vasily II for a ransom of 25,000 rubles. Unfortunately, Ulug Muhammad was murdered by his son, Mahmud of Kazan, who fled to the Middle Volga region and founded the Khanate of Kazan in 1445. In 1447, Mahmud sent an army against Muscovy but was repelled. Crimean Khanate. In 1449, Hakkari seized Crimea from Ahmad I, and founded the Crimean Khanate. The Crimean Khanate considered its state as the heir and legal successor of the Golden Horde and Deshta Kipchak, called themselves Khans of the Great Horde, the Great State and the throne of the Crimea. Caspian Khanate. One of Ulug Muhammad's sons, Caspian Khan, fled to Moscow, where Vasily II granted him land that became the Caspian Khanate. Kazakh Khanate. In 1458, Janibek Khan and Kuray Khan led 200,000 of Abul-Qa'ir Khan's followers eastwards to the Chu River where Esenbukha II of Mogolistan granted them pasture lands. After Abul-Qa'ir Khan died in 1467, they assumed leadership over most of his followers, and became the Kazakh Khanate Great Horde. In 1435, the Khan Kipchak Muhammad ousted Sayyid Ahmad. He attacked Ryazan and suffered a major defeat against the forces of Vasily II. Sayyid Ahmad continued to raid Muscovy and in 1449 made a direct attack on Moscow. However, he was defeated by Muscovy's ally Caspian Khan. In 1450, Kipchak Muhammad attacked Ryazan but was turned back by a combined Russo-Tatar army. In 1451, Sayyid Ahmad tried to take Moscow again and failed. Kipchak Muhammad was succeeded by his son Mahmud bin Kipchak in 1459, from which point on the Golden Horde came to be known as the Great Horde. Mahmud was succeeded by his brother Ahmed Khan bin Kipchak in 1465. In 1469, Ahmed attacked and killed the Uzbek Abul-Qa'ir Khan. In the summer of 1470, Ahmed organized an attack against Moldavia, the Kingdom of Poland, and Lithuania. By August 20, the Moldavian forces under Stephen the Great defeated the Tatars at the Battle of Lipnik. In 1474 and 1476, Ahmed insisted that Ivan III of Russia recognize the Khan as his overlord. In 1480, Ahmed organized a military campaign against Moscow, resulting in a face-off between two opposing armies known as the Great Stand on the Ugar River. Ahmed judged the conditions unfavorable and retreated. This incident formally ended the Tatar yoke over Rus lands. On January 6, 1481, Ahmed was killed by Uzbeg Khan, the prince of the Khanate of Siberia and Nogai at the mouth of the Donets River. Ahmed's sons were unable to maintain the Great Horde. They attacked the Kingdom of Poland and the Grand Duchy of Lithuania in 1487 to 1491 and reached as far as Lublin in eastern Poland before being decisively beaten at Zaslavl. The Crimean Khanate, which had become a vassal state of the Ottoman Empire in 1475, subjugated what remained of the Great Horde, sacking Sarai in 1502. After seeking refuge in Lithuania, Sheikh Ahmed, last Khan of the Horde, died in prison in Kaunas sometime after 1504. According to other sources, he was released from the Lithuanian prison in 1527. Records of Golden Horde existence reach however as far as end of 18th century, and it was mentioned in works of Russian publisher Nikolai Novikov in his work of 1773 Ancient Russian Hydrography. Astrakhan Khanate. After 1466, Mahmud bin Kipchak's descendants continued to rule in Astrakhan as the Khans of the Astrakhan Khanate. Russian conquests. The Tsardom of Russia conquered the Khanate of Kazan in 1552, the Khanate of Astrakhan in 1556, and the Khanate of Siberia in 1582. The Crimean Tatars wreaked havoc in southern Russia, Ukraine and even Poland in the course of the 16th and early 17th centuries, but they were not able to defeat Russia or take Moscow. Under Ottoman protection, The Khanate of Crimea continued its precarious existence until Catherine the Great annexed it on April 8, 1783. It was by far the longest-lived of the successor states to the Golden Horde.